Who are you?
Well, it's Caro, but never mind.
Caro.
People get it wrong all the time. I get called all kinds of things.
Okay.
I am currently a diversity advisor at SOAS in London, which is part of the University of London, and it specialises in the study of Africa and Asia.
So, okay.
SOAS.
School SOAS.
Yes, we don't. SOAS stands for School of Oriental and African Studies, but Oriental has unfortunate overtones these days. So we don't use the full wording.
No.
We say SOAS, and then we say what we specialise in.
Exactly, good.
In language that is acceptable.
Okay. Please, so tell me in about 2-3 sentences, why did you change from BBC? I know you're a journalist, and you come to the institution of SOAS.
I've worked in the media and television for the vast majority of my career. I started in live television news, and it was actually working in news that made me understand the different values people attached to individuals depending on where they came from, what their skin colour was, what their gender was, and whether they had a disability and what age they were. So I started to just be concerned about these things in my personal life, and it became a job that I got paid for doing. It turned into a diversity job at the BBC, and after 10 years I decided I'd had enough, because my perception was that the progress we'd made was going backwards and I couldn't justify being there anymore. So I left and did freelance diversity consultancy work and continued to develop some creative projects, and then saw this job at SOAS and decided that I would like to apply for it, because I already work, I teach on an MA in Media and Diversity at the University of Westminster, so I had a foot in the academic world already.
Okay.
So I thought it would be a good... and SOAS has such an amazing reputation for being a very unique and different type of institution. I actually wanted to find out more.
Yeah. I'm not going to ask you if you are disappointed or very helpful about your work and experience. Now not. At the end of the interview. Before, please, Sue, can you tell me something about the institution? So, one, it has been, I think it's 100 years ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
2016 is actually our centenary year. SOAS has been in existence for 100 years. And the title of my presentation today was SOAS, 100 Years of Diversity with a question mark, because the question mark is very important.
Okay.
On the surface, SOAS has been diverse from its very inception. However, an expression that I used to use a lot in my media work is window dressing, where there's an appearance of diversity and inclusion, but it's only superficial. And I think that was probably true to a large extent of SOAS in its earlier years. However, we now have the first black woman to ever head up a university as the director of SOAS.
She's the widow of...
No, that's
sorry. I'm not well informed. Okay.
No, we have Baroness Valerie Amos, who is the director, so that is a paid full-time role. And then our president, which is an honorary role, is Gracia Michel, who is a human rights activist, the former wife of the president of Mozambique, who was murdered by the South Africans, and who subsequently married Nelson Mandela.
Okay.
So we have two black women in our most senior positions at SOAS. One is honorary position, but the other is a day-to-day job. And so therefore, I think it sends out, the message that SOAS is serious about these issues.
Maybe a lot of people think it's not enough to have black or disability people in a position who can they change something, but they do not. But I don't think this is the case in your institute.
Well, yes, of course, you can put tokens in place, and particularly within the field of diversity, and I find this is true whatever industry you're looking at or whichever sector, that people in diversity who are charged with the responsibility, they have the responsibility, but they have no power. Mm-hmm. And it's what you can make happen as an individual is actually more to do with your powers of persuasion and your strategic thinking than anything else. And you need to have a very thick skin and a lot of resilience. But I think when you have somebody who was a professional politician running the university, who is herself a woman and a woman of colour, and she lives and breathes these experiences, and she is absolutely committed to ensuring that every student and every member of staff has equality of opportunity.
Equality of opportunity, that's a lovely word. Maybe we should take this in account. What kind of actions are in your institutions, in particularly with disability studies, or something like, how do you realize there is a lack in your institution? I think you mentioned this in your lecture today. There are little thing, a small number with people or staff with disability studies in your institution.
People who declare or self-define, self-identify as disabled and are prepared to commit that to a monitoring form, the numbers are small. And I would like to refer to my BBC experience in this as an example, because it's not unusual. This, when I joined the BBC, the percentage of staff who declared they had a disability was just 1%. And just looking around at the staff, you knew that that was a considerable underestimate. And after a series of consultations and all the rest of it, it became absolutely clear that the issue was disabled people did not wish to declare their disability because they thought it would go against them in their career. So we ran a massive sort of comms exercise and talked about the support that was available if you registered, if you recorded your disability, and how much we wanted to change things. And then we did another data collection, and the figure went up to 5%. So just telling people and demonstrating that actually there was an awareness around the issues, that it would not be used against them, and all the rest of it, created an atmosphere where they felt more able to declare their disability. And I believe the same is true of SOAS. I think there is a perception that it's potentially career damaging if you admit to having a disability, and that is why so few staff declare. The number of students that declare is like 3 times as many, and I suspect even that is an underestimate, because a lot of disability, as you know, is invisible. But we know that we are not doing as well as we should, and one of the issues for us is the lack of access in terms of physical access to the estate, the buildings, the campus of SOAS, and it's one of our priorities to address that, and we are doing that in various ways, one of which is getting the director of the estates to regularly report back on what has been done and what progress has been made.
Thank you. I'm going to read 1 or 2 sentences from your abstract today.
Okay.
And I would like you to comment this, please.
Have you
Sue will present a broad overview of SOAS and our approach to equality, diversity and inclusion. Approach, is that the way to try something to do? I don't think so. Approach is political. You have to do something. You're going to do something, and as you mentioned before, something like power. Because, okay, I'm going to critical this one.
I think you're getting hung up on the use of one word, and that's probably because English isn't your first language. Approach just means the way we are going to do it, and that is within the law, and to use as many of the arguments that we have at our disposal, including the threat of losing research funding if we don't make progress.
Okay.
So the word approach does not mean that we're taking a light touch to this at all.
That's great. Thank you for telling me this. Two last questions. Your experience in the SOAS. Now, you've been now since?
I've only been there a year.
A year? Okay. A year, short time, maybe. Would you like please tell me about the year you've experienced now? What was good and what was not good in this year?
Well, when you start at a new place of work, particularly as in my case, I'm part-time, that was my choice. It takes a long time to really get to know an organisation and how it functions and, you know, what the issues are. So the first year has been, myself and my other colleague in the diversity team, we conducted a review of what SOAS had in place and were quite horrified to some extent by the lack of a strategic approach to the issues. And we have, to some extent, it's a bit of a one step forward, two steps back, because like almost any diversity work, there's attention, there's conflicts. So there are people in the institution who actually were really happy with what was happening previously, which was very reactive rather than looking forward. And there's probably a larger group who knew that we could be doing a lot better. And so basically, my year has been sort of trying to work out who the allies are and where we have perhaps the biggest issues, the biggest problems, and what our priorities should be. And it's been a very challenging year for SOAS due to all kinds of internal and external political issues, including the school being forcibly closed for several days due to a student-led occupation that got completely out of hand. And in that instance, myself and my colleague were in our office with the door locked whilst the students were trying to break it down.
That's diversity politics?
Yes. With African drums as the accompaniment.
The leisure aspect of it.
So I thought it was quite interesting because at the BBC, passive-aggressive is the way things are done. Lots of undermining and, you know, that kind of stuff. Whereas at SOAS, it's just right full on in your face.
The reason I asked you for 1 year, a person, maybe I'm going to exaggerate, do you need a change? Yes. I think I do realize.
I personally need a change?
Yes, you personally need a change for institution. You are only 1 year there. Okay. What strategic plan do you have to change something there?
We have
in your position.
Yes, we've developed a diversity strategy, which isn't just going through the processes of finally being signed off. It sets out strategic objectives and it assigns responsibility to named individuals for progress. And in tandem with the presentation from Claire from the ECU, we at SOAS, we have the Athena Swan Charter Mark. And in order to ensure that we keep it, we need to show that we've made progress. So that's one driver to, for example, one of our key KPIs, key performance indicators, is to see more women in senior academic positions. That's one of them. More black and minority ethnic women in senior positions, and also across the board, men and women, BME men and women, to increase the number of people who are prepared to record themselves as disabled is another one. Closing the pay gap for women, for BME staff and disabled staff, but also looking at the attainment gap for students, where despite the fact that SOAS has a minority of white students, in that we only have 38% of our students are white, 58% are BME and 4% are undeclared, but white students still get more firsts.
First?
Yes.
Oh, excess, you mean?
In terms, they get the highest level of degree,
good.
Even though they are the minority. So we call that the attainment gap, and that is one of the key areas of focus as well. And we will be also contributing to the overall decolonising the school agenda, which is looking at the curriculum, the way it's taught, everything.
Okay. Lot of actions. Okay. Last question, please. Politics and education. You are a journalist, and I have to ask you this question. Are you optimistic that you maybe in 2 or 3 years get this plan on the road, on the track? Are you optimistic if you get the right support from the people?
I think what happens in SOAS can't be divorced from what's happening across the UK in general. And I am seriously concerned that there've already been... We've talked today in our presentations about how legislation has been a key driver in making progress in this area. And there is already talk from the potential prime ministerial candidates that they are going to withdraw the equality legislation. So one of our key drivers will disappear, or possibly disappear. However, SOAS as an institution, with its current leadership, is committed to this agenda because it sees it as the way forward. We are a globalized world. We cannot be isolationist. So I think within SOAS, even if the legislation is withdrawn or even more watered down than it has been by the current government, we will still be trying really hard to move the institution forward. And I think we will succeed in making progress. How much progress is another matter.
It's another matter. It's been a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Sue,
it's been a pleasure to come.
Thank you. Sue, and now please tell me how I should tell Caro.
Caro.
Yeah. Sorry?
Caro.
Sorry, Caro.
So like car with an O on the end.
So, Caro.
Caro.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.